Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored with Steve Taplin. Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filter and just tell it like it is. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, serial technology entrepreneur. I've launched 30 companies. 20 of those didn't work out so good. 10 of them tailed to success. I turned that roller coaster of a ride into my book, Fail Hard, Win Big, where I teach you how to turn failure into your biggest competitive advantage and how custom software played a defining role in every win. Now I'm the CEO of Sonatify Technology, where we help scale engineering teams with proven nearshore talent without the high overhead, delays, or drama. And today I am joined by a fun guest out of Colorado Springs, Justin Stouder, who was the CTO, now GM of FireMon. Justin is a cybersecurity and technology executive, over 20 years experience. He's got a whole great stuff for us to talk about, including a leadership retreat that he has created for executives. Justin, welcome.
Yeah, Steve, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
If you would, take our listeners through the journey of your career, and you got to explain the CTO to general manager. This is the first.
Yeah, absolutely. So Steve, let's see, graduated from Purdue University with a degree in organizational leadership, but I've always been both an entrepreneur and a technologist just from early stages of my life. And I've been in software and product development for over 20 years, serving all different types of companies, largely in the cybersecurity space. Most recently, in an executive role at US Bank doing digital transformation, and then spent a year building a cryptocurrency trading platform out of the Cayman Islands. And like you said, took the CTO role at FireMon and had an awesome time for 2 years, and then got the chance to stretch some of those entrepreneurial muscles and take a GM position of a largely shelved acquisition and grow it tremendously. So that's a real quick and interesting update of my last 20 years.
Very cool. Well, tell us more about FireMon.
Yeah, absolutely. So FireMon invented the network security policy management space. And if you're not familiar with NSPM, it's basically like the layer above all of your enterprise level firewalls, and wouldn't be surprised to know that most enterprises have a mixed match of firewall vendors and providers. And those are separate teams with separate interests and separate expertise. Well, our software allows the enterprise to understand across their entire infrastructure what's taking place at the firewall level. That's the lion's share. 90% of the revenue of FireMon comes from that space. The business that I run used to be called Lumeta and was actually birthed out of Bell Labs for the federal government back in 1998, when the federal government came to Bell Labs and literally said, because I talked to the founder, hey, this internet thing, it's getting out of hand. Can you help us keep tabs on it? So they wrote this software that traverses all of the nodes. At that time, it was 400,000. By the end of this year, it'll be 46 billion, and then brings them back in real time. And FireMon acquired this business in 2018 through a series of acquisitions and growing the top line. Back to the ethos for your podcast. It was a VC play, typical. Acquire a lot of companies, grow the top line, and flip. Well, it did all of that except for the flip. And so this acquisition had largely languished and been shelved. And so I had the chance to step in and take over the entire thing and grow it. And it's been just a fantastic ride.
Sounds like fun. I like it. You know, being a tech leader, being a CTO, man, it's a tough job. You got to lead engineering teams, and you got to have the technical chops to understand what they're going through, how to help them. And then the harder part is justifying the engineering team's existence to non-technical executives, board members, VCs. How did you get your role at FireMon?
Yes, that's a great question. It's a company that's no longer in existence, and I'll explain that really quick. A company called Analytico. And it was formed in the Cayman Islands by a couple of guys who had exited well, moved to the Cayman Islands from the UK, and just wanted a little bit of spending money. So they wrote some really basic logic that was trimming the cryptocurrency market, just entering positions and exiting quickly. And it exploded for them. So they needed to ramp internationally. They needed 24/7, 365 support, both from operations and the dev side, because crypto never stops trading. So they brought me on to build out their operations, support, and dev team all over the world. I was hiring in Hong Kong, Sydney, Melbourne, London, all over the States, building this team.
Now you're talking like an American. When you say Melbourne, it's Melbourne.
Yes, Melbourne. You're right. But I'd never done that before.
I had an office there and I got yelled at by everyone in Australia so many times that it stuck with me.
Well, here's the interesting thing about this company, no customers, which I'd never experienced before. We literally were just trading house money every day, and we did really well. We were very successful. We had about 20 employees, and we're making much over $1 million per employee every year.
Wow.
Until the cryptocurrency freeze from about 4.5, 5 years ago, because you need two things to be successful when you're doing high frequency trading, and that's volume and volatility, and both of those dropped out about 5 years ago. So back to your original question, I entered into my network, which if there's anything that I could advise someone coming up in this space is that continually pursue and build out your network no matter what. Never let it get stagnant and never be too proud and humble to just reach out and get mentors. That aside, I did just that. And I got introduced to Jody, the CEO of FireMon. And we talked about a couple different things and knew that he had an engineering team that needed a lot of help. And so to really kind of give context, an incredible company, breaking ground, new space, acquired in 2014, and then kind of pieced together through offshore, losing kind of their way, acquisitions, integrations, got to this kind of bloated, nasty mess, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
Yeah, extremely expensive from an OpEx standpoint, creating more technical debt than solving all of the traditional problems, DevOps, systems, people, etc. And so here's the lesson. I came on board and said, look, I can solve the people, the process, and the system issues. We can get this thing building in real time. We can get this down to really a humming process, whatever type of SDLC we need to implement, etc. But I didn't know the product. Really key takeaway, that's something that maybe you and I can hone in on is, can you be a successful CTO without having deep domain understanding and knowledge of the product itself? Now, traditionally, that's your VP of engineering role. But I was brought in to be the CTO. So we solved the people issues, we solved the process issues, the system issues, and it really needed to have someone that had a deep domain expertise on the product. And at the same time, this business unit was languishing, shelved, losing customers, et cetera. And so we came to the conclusion that after 2 years as the CTO, I could transition, hand it over to someone who knows the product really well, start focusing on that, and go stretch my entrepreneurial legs running a full business.
Very cool. Very cool. I want to dive into this more, but let's deter. Tell me about SummitWise and what you've put
absolutely.
together there.
It's so cool, Steve. We exist to redefine perspective in the lives of businesses, teams, and executives. And we do that by doing full turnkey experiences in the Rocky Mountains. I'm talking all you need to complete is a ride or a flight to DIA. And from there, it's complete turnkey. And what we do is we purvey two things that if you're really honest with yourself, you'll agree. And the first one is a little bit of discomfort. Now, why would we purvey discomfort? Well, it's because everyone is pursuing the opposite of that. They're pursuing comfort. And I believe it shrouds our ability to really understand what's taking place. So we go to 11,000 feet to a high mountain camp. You still sleep on 4-inch air mattresses and everything's completely taken care of, but it's a little different than here. We don't have these screens. We don't have phones. We're just in nature. And the second thing is, besides being discomfort, is to have some sort of arduous thing to go after, a challenge. And so we do a hike on the third day that you're here, and we get into the mountains and we understand like what it's like to maybe get outside and do something as a team. And you would be surprised, actually, maybe you wouldn't, at what actually happens when those two things come together. And we've been very successful, Steve. So we started this 7 years ago on a whim when someone reached out and said, hey, would you take me into the mountains? And I did, and word of mouth, and now marketing has grown 50% year over year, where we're taking companies, leadership consulting businesses completely into the mountains to do strategy sessions, vision casting, all under the safety and purvey of our guests, of our guides. It's really, really interesting. There's also been kind of a something I didn't really expect, which is this tangential nonprofit approach, where they take some of their key leaders and some donors, people that they want to pour into, and just let us take care of everything else and kind of do a pitch, if you will, about the nonprofit and what it is they're doing and who they're serving. And we've seen a 40x return on investment for those nonprofits. So as you can imagine, word's getting out and it's growing tremendously. I have a whole team of guides. My family's involved, and we just really have been blessed by this business.
How long is a retreat?
So I'm very flexible in that regard. We'll do half day, we'll do 1 day, but if you really want the full immersive experience, It's 4 days total, and that includes the travel days to get to DIA. And we have people coming from all over the states, as you can imagine, but now it's getting international. It's really catching.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what kind of breakthroughs are you seeing when people go on that they kind of never expected?
Yeah, let me tell you a story about a guy who was roasting coffee beans in his basement as a hobby. And he was working at one of the large companies in Kansas City. People had recognized that he had a proficiency, a skill that he was doing with his beans, but he was too nervous to launch the business. And so around the campfire, all these other business leaders were just pouring into this young man and saying, why not? Like, that's solvable. That's solvable. And he would have this objection that he would bring, and people would say, no, we can solve that. You can talk to this person or that person. So by the end of the trip, he had decided to start distributing his roasted beans. This was 4 years ago, and it exploded. He was shipping coffee all over the world and made enough money to leave his job and start a coffee shop. Now he has 2 coffee shops, and he's expecting to launch a 3rd one, all because he brought those objections and those concerns to the campfire and had other businessmen and businesswomen pour into him. So that's just one of many stories I could share with you of what it really means
I love it.
to step out, to disconnect, be a little bit uncomfortable, maybe be just a little transparent, and have people pour into you.
How many people are usually on a single retreat? How big are the groups?
Absolutely. That's very important that we curate that experience and that it's not too many and not too few. And so our ideal is 6 to 12. I have a group coming out in 2 weeks that's 14, and we're really interested. In fact, I'm talking to that team on Thursday. I'm like, how are we going to work within 14 people? That's a lot to facilitate. But so to answer your question, 6 to 12 folks.
Gotcha. Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing about that. Let's go back to FireMon. Tell us about some cutting edge stuff you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I'm able to share with you right now, FireMon in the NSPM space, if we're being honest, has been around for quite some time. 20, almost 25 years. And so being innovative in a 25-year-old business is challenging. So as you can imagine, we're looking at artificial intelligence and how it can help us. So we're building a new tool called Insights. And FireMon Insights allows us to take a look at all of your different firewall policies, your firewall rules, overlay artificial intelligence to give you up to the minute information on your cyber postures, your cyber risk, et cetera. And that's something that no one else is doing. Generally speaking, there's a purveying of the information, but we're expecting you to deduce it, for you to take the insights from it. Now with artificial intelligence and with FireMon Insights, we're actually stepping in and providing that in a graphical interface that is just absolutely beautiful. And people they're loving it.
Gotcha. Very cool. Now, I know you've evolved from the CTO, but roll into this GM over this acquired business. But tell us about your engineering team, the structure, how when you were CTO, how you ran that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had 110 people, 10 teams, 4 senior managers. And if we're being honest with ourselves, it was way too much. We had offshore, nearshore. It wasn't really broken down into an intelligent structure that could be operated cohesively. So we took a step completely back, and this is a traditional step that most CTOs or engineering leaders have to tackle. And that's, how do you assign teams? Is it feature-based? Is it the tech stack-based? To do a little bit of both, honestly. But we did take that step back. We did a skills assessment, which I know is like a 4-letter word for CTOs or VPs of engineering, but I promise you, I've worked with some intelligent, incredible, and very successful CTOs, and they said, no matter what, do that skills assessment. That helped us understand, oh my gosh, this person over here has a skill that they're not using, that's languishing, that we really need over here. So the TLDR on the answer for you would be, it was product-based, like features, first product, then features within the product, and then aligning teams based on their skills. And that really was how we started being very successful.
Very interesting that you guys have gone through that evolution and successfully reorganized.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, tell us, throughout your career, what you've accomplished, what you've done. What's one brutal lesson you wish you would have learned earlier in your career?
So there's 2 things, if anyone's listening, that I would love for them to take away. And the first is, when you step into a leadership role in technology, I used to not believe this, Steve, and so it's not easy for me to say this, because I've had a career, a successful career, that is demonstrative of the opposite of this until late. And that's that if you're a really great leader of people and you're both a pursuer of empathy and excellence, that will supersede whether or not you have the lion's share knowledge of a product. You really need to have that baseline. To be a good tech leader, you need to understand the product. You need to understand the customers it serves, their pain, et cetera, for you to be able to speak into what you're doing with your teams. That's the first thing. So if you're looking at a leadership position within technology, make sure that whatever company you're looking at, even if it's the current company you're in, you know the product or you are on a path to have deep domain knowledge of that product. And the second thing that has guided me my entire career, a mentor early on told me, Justin, you just need to ask, how can I add the most value? And that question has gotten me quite a long way because it's a very truthful question. Like, it also enables people to just uncover things that maybe they're not willing to discuss. So if you're going into technology, make sure you understand the product or you're on a path to. And second, always be asking, how can I add the most value?
Those are great tips. Those are absolutely great tips. And it is interesting to point out that the CTO needs to be much more than just a great technologist, a great leader, great on the business side, but that deep product knowledge and the importance of it. Great thing to point out.
Yeah, I think maybe as you're talking, one other thing, it's okay that you don't have it all figured out. And that's what hiring good people can do and fill in those gaps. So being honest with yourself on maybe things that you're not great at. A lot of the pure technical like architects that become CTOs, maybe the R&D focused folks, traditionally aren't the best people leaders. And so you need to look for that in your VP of engineering and hire someone who just comes alive when thinking about caring for and feeding your teams and your people. Being aware, self-aware is absolutely critical for success in the CTO role.
Great advice. All right. So now we're more than halfway through 2025. What are some of the biggest business and technical outcomes you're focused on for the remainder of the year?
Absolutely. So this company was acquired in 2014 and we published this information. So this isn't absolutely private. For the first time, we were profitable in 2024. And so for us as a business, it's growing while being attentive to the EBITDA that we've achieved. And so that's the tension that we're living in right now, because any business-minded technologist will understand when you have a little bit more money, you want to go hire more people because you can always solve more problems if you have more people. And so that's the tension that we're in right now, is being good stewards of what we've accomplished with the turnaround literally of this business, and it being profitable and it actually generating cash flow while still wanting to grow and serve our customers even more and more. And that's where you find us right now, is in the tension between those.
10 years post-acquisition to turn a profit. Was that expected? Well, I guess, was that expected? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I know FireMon was always run that way, intentionally. For lots of different reasons, wanting to just grow and grow and grow as fast as possible and pulling from, not from cash to do so. It's a really good question. I think coming out of COVID and with the network security policy management TAM starting to get a little more saturated because it's 25 years, it's a little long in the tooth, we had to just become exceptionally efficient. And Steve, when I joined the company, there's 100 fewer employees and we're actually growing more than we ever have before. It's really about efficiency. And kind of what I talked about before, how you're aligning your teams, how you're focusing them, et cetera. Great support from Insight, which is the primary owner of FireMon, but really looking at it from an efficiency standpoint, still having fun and growing and blessing our team with offsites and rewards, et cetera, but also just being very, very good stewards of every dollar that comes in.
Gotcha. So, a company that's been fueled by acquisitions, you got to be dealing with a bunch of tech debt.
Yes.
What's your approach on that?
That is such a great question. Every single leader in tech has to solve for this. And we have tried a lot of different things, Steve. We've tried the RICU, the RICE, all of the prioritization, and we're still trying to figure it out. Candidly, we've got a lot of RFEs that, we're trying to solve for whoever screams the loudest, whoever has the most revenue. But candidly, a lot of times that's just who goes to the top, is whoever has the most revenue. I'd love to say that 25 years into the business, we just have this fixed roadmap that doesn't change, and that would be a lie.
Yeah.
We do have a
That's not how business works.
No, it's not at all. So, like, at full candor, we have a beautiful roadmap. We've got Insights, this new, innovative technology that has artificial intelligence on it that's going to disrupt the market. We just launched Insights 1.5 all over the socials and online, et cetera. But it's still to this day, when a little high 6 or 7 figure customer needs something, we'll drop everything to get after it. Now, the RFE count, and if you were to look at a chart, like, we are slowly chipping away at it, but not as fast as I think anyone who's working on those issues would like to see.
Well, the tough thing about tech debt, it's not like you could just shut it down and rebuild. It's got to be iterative. It's other business priorities come into play, and it's kind of that nagging thing out there for every CTO.
Yes, that's right. And the space that we operate in, network security policy management, is incredibly complicated. I mean, imagine having an F5, a Cisco, a Palo, a Fortinet firewall, all with their own operating systems and their interfaces, and us trying to interpolate all of that and then give you a perspective. And then they change out from underneath you and back and forth. It's incredibly complicated. We have some very, very, very smart people at FireMon.
So tell us, can't have a tech show without talking AI. AI has been this evolution of things from a product and operations perspective. Have you guys integrated AI workflows, AI tools into your product and your engineering?
So from a product standpoint, we've done with our traditional product the overlay that I think most people are doing to have a queryable tool where you can interact with your data. I think that's the first step for some companies the same size and same time as ours. It's difficult to take something that's 25 years old back to the tech debt and just insert AI from the beginning. So we've done that. We have Insights, like I've said. And from a tooling standpoint, I would say we're being very, very risk conscious, just because we have such a long code base and such a, not long, but just it's been around. It's 25 years old. So inserting something into that, there's all kinds of possibility. So as opposed to like frontline code development, where we're starting as testing, and we're seeing a lot of value there. One of the things I'd love to impart is when you talk about artificial intelligence, everyone wants to talk about Gemini and ChatGPT and Claude. And I really believe, Steve, the best thing that you can do to serve your organization as a technologist is to just talk about use cases. Like, what are the use cases first and foremost? Forget about all the tools, forget about the lingo. How can we serve our customers with a use case that makes sense? And then let's go get that. Let's run it through some testing and let's apply it, and then go right back to the top and start with use cases. And so while it might take some caustic feedback to understand that, yes, we took AI and we bolted it on to help from a query perspective, that's okay. Risk conscious. It's not going to upset our customers. It's not going to expose any PII. We've done that. And now we're back to the use case perspective with engineering.
Well, you described that in a very systematic way that makes sense. If you're talking tools, the next version will change anyways. So there's no point in modeling things around the specific tools because they're evolving so quickly. So great way of framing that up.
Well, I learned that I'm actually an investor and an advisor to a startup on the East Coast that everyone should have on their radar. Hop out to LinkedIn and follow them. It's Artificial Intelligence Risk. And they're a company that is building a platform for GRCC, governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity. And they are seeing some tremendous success at just doing that. Like, everyone's racing to be first. We need to slow down. We need to step through this methodically with a perspective on risk. And doing so will enable you to use artificial intelligence in a meaningful way without any exposure. That's the real concern. And that company is just absolutely exploding.
Excellent. So I wrote a whole book of failures and mistakes and how I've used them. And, as we were talking pre-show, you have some failures and mistakes you've learned from. Share a couple of those if you would.
Yeah, first is the one I've kind of said earlier, and I'll reiterate. And if I haven't spoken specifically, I'd likely still be in the CTO role had I had that product experience, had I indexed on product instead of focusing on what was familiar to me, which was process, people, and systems. Not that I got pushed out. It just made a lot of sense to bring someone else in that knew product. And I was very excited about the entrepreneurial itch in this business unit, which has been tremendous. So learn the product. And it's okay if you're an early stage, senior software engineer on your way to architect, the product really well, and you step into that CTO role, you're likely going to be successful, given that it's focused towards technology and not necessarily like VP of engineering culture and people. The second thing, and maybe even more important, is trust. I used to believe that you can give trust, and that is absolutely not true, as much as I would like to believe it, because you will run into people that believe ardently that trust is earned, and that supersedes giving trust. So trust is earned. There is no doubt in my mind. So if you're entering into a new organization, the way that you can do that is by delivering, helping people out, asking the question, Steve, how may I help you? And building trust. Trust is absolutely important to the speed of your organization. Trust is built, not earned. I'm sorry, not given.
Great point. Very great point. Well, Justin, thank you for coming on the show, sharing your unique background, your journey from being a founder, being an investor advisor, being a CTO, taking over a business unit, and your leadership retreat and summit. Damn, you're an interesting guy. Justin, with all your great experience, before we wrap, we have tech leaders out there who are trying to build, scale, or just survive. What's some no BS advice you'd like to give based on the journey you've gone through?
Never stop learning, ever, ever. Always be curious. And a lot of times the technology leaders get to that place because they're experts in their field, and they can kind of dial it back a little bit and rest on that expertise. It's really easy for me to say that with artificial intelligence just exploding all over the scene. But even in those gaps, even in those dry seasons, maybe learn about leadership. Go find a book. Seek out a mentor. Never stop learning and be curious.
Awesome. Justin, thank you so much. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, well, do the right thing. Share it with your competitors. Might be the edge they need. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time. That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatify Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.